and keep being productive in their communities. But sometimes the word culture is another word that I don't protect. I think culture should be questioned, should be criticized, and it doesn't get a free pass just because it's my culture. So, what? I cannot do anything that my culture does? That's not me. I have black in me, I have Jewish in me, I have white in me, not because I say so, science says so. So, I try to enjoy every background that I have in me, and I try to get the good things, because all ideas have a positive side and a negative side, and it's up to each person to pick the good things about it, rather than saying, well, it's bad, so, I hate that. So I try to do that. It's not easy. I'm a human being. I don't like to be criticized. It's difficult for me to deal with criticism, but you have to take it, and you have to accept that that's something that is going to happen when you are trying to get your point across, and when you are trying to work with your community, and when you're trying to make young girls, be interested and change their future. My fight has been in the Latino community for forever, since I can remember. I'm always looking for a way to make sure that they belong in STEM classes, that they participate in the community, that they are involved, that the things that the Hispanic cultures that I don't agree with, and that they make the Hispanic community kind of invisible and self-destructive at times, it's forgotten or is corrected. I've been involved in that fight, forever, and it's not easy. One question that I want to ask: how many people here are Latino, Hispanic, or considered? Okay, one. That's one more than 16 years ago. So, we are making progress, but as you can see, it's not a lot of progress. Okay? So, how long do I have?
Well, we want to pass the mic.
Okay. All right.
All right, good morning.
Morning.
Bring it. How's that? Is that better? Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So, just so you guys know how the panel's in there, we each are going to, talk for a few minutes, and then we'll have questions at the end. So when I was asked about my views on feminism, or whenever I'm asked about my views on feminism, I always feel a little weird, for lack of a better term, because I've generally not felt fully, I don't know why I'm not looking at this, let me just say. So I've generally not felt fully included in white feminism, because the issues that many white women champion stop really short of the things that matter most to me as a black woman, who is focused on uplifting black women and helping us break free from oppression. This is slowly changing with the acknowledgement that intersectional feminism is key to us all moving forward towards equity, which is refreshing. The top issues facing black women, in my view, which is definitely not an exhaustive list, but it's kind of how I look at things, are domestic violence, reproductive justice, education / the school to prison pipeline, and health disparities in our community. While obviously this is an exhaustive list, like I just said, these are the areas that I choose to focus on. A lot of times because these are the areas that have touched me personally, or my children, or my family, or people in my community in Houston, from Houston, Texas, by the way. So black women being preyed on by the church either causes or exacerbates all these issues as far as I'm concerned. And that's kind of where that intersection between skepticism and specifically black women issues happens for me. So it's worth noting at this point that I do try to speak and write about black women's relationships with the church, and the Christian church specifically, with compassion and understanding of how we were burdened with this belief system in the first place. On every podcast I've been privileged to speak on, especially if it's a white podcaster show, I made sure to explain why being mean about these beliefs isn't usually helpful. Calling the beliefs dumb, and lately, words that I keep going around, cooning and stuff like that. It just shows a lack of historical understanding, and it really simplifies the issue. We didn't become one of the most religious communities out of nowhere, kind of beaten into us in some instances. So, for the most part, this wasn't a choice in the Black community, and giving it up represents a hopeless alternative to many people. If you take away Christianity, then what do I still have? I'm still being oppressed. I'm still, in the situation that I'm in. So that's why it's imperative for the secular community to offer alternatives and not just ridicule. How can I hear this all the time, and especially when I'm on podcasts? How can Black people be Christian? Like, that's so stupid. You kind of need to, and this is why I'm so glad we're here today, like surrounded by other color, other Black women, because that's just annoying. Don't do that anymore. Like, stop it, white people. Okay. Now that I get that off. Getting back to the feminist issues that need to be addressed better by the secular community, domestic violence tops the list for me as a domestic violence survivor. In 2011, which is the year that I left an abusive spouse and church on the same day, Black women were murdered at a rate of 2.5 times higher than white women. 94% of them knew their killers. The church, in many cases, including mine, would just have wives pray for their husbands, hope that it gets better. You keep being the best wife you can possibly be, and God will change them, kind of thing. And that rarely works out well, obviously. So Black women, especially in my home state of Texas, are also far more likely to die in childbirth than white women, regardless of class. While the church isn't directly implicated in this phenomenon, I say with a wink, racism at all levels is, perhaps if the Christian church didn't push being fruitful and multiplying and vehemently oppose abortion, less women would be in this situation to begin with. So despite Black women achieving the highest rates of post-secondary education in the Black community, between 2004 and 2014, Black women's real median annual earnings declined by 5%. Declined by 5%, which was more than 3 times as much as women's earnings overall. And side note, a lot of these stats that I'm quoting are cited in the book, in the chapter, so you can go back and look at that. Couple this with Black women's participation rates in churches that demand their money, and the financial picture is very bleak. So you're making less, and you're the biggest portion of the church that's telling you to give 10% of that gross, and sow a seed on top of it, and they're just killing us financially and every other way. Before we can even get to this point, however, we have to contend with racist education policies in the school-to-prison pipeline, which, yes, affects Black girls as well. In this area, the church continues to be harmful by promoting antiquated disciplinary strategies like spanking instead of proven technologies to quell misbehavior, and more importantly, because this is not all because of misbehavior, fighting against racist school systems to begin with. Across the nation, oops, sorry, I skipped a line. No, I didn't. Anyway, that's for our children's future. Finally, and by no means the last issue, health disparities plague Black women, despite 84% reporting religion as being very important to us, and 59% saying they attend church at least once a week. Higher rates of obesity, diabetes, and heart disease suggest this religiosity is not exactly working as suggested. So, it's like we're in the church the most, but we're also having the most problems. Something's not working. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm sorry, my face, I can't hide it. I definitely think the secular community can do a much better job of addressing these issues, especially if we want Black women to leave the church in favor of non-belief. To be sure, a secular approach would naturally be better suited to tackle these intersectional feminist issues than traditional Christianity, but we first have to put programs in place to help those who have only known to run to God with their problems. And Takibu mentioned this last night, and I was like, I'm gonna say that tomorrow. But, once we do this, once we have alternatives to Christianity and alternatives to run to God and run to church, I think it will be easier for us to say, you don't have to continue in this life where you are being actively harmed. So, then we can help even more women escape the bonds of oppression, both at church and at home. Thank you.
Hello. So what I wanted to address today and sort of take this platform to address is the ways that sort of my journey with intersectionality as a term and as a concept